is a partner at Mulenga Mundashi Legal Practitioners with a wealth of local and cross-border commercial transactions and experience with over 10 years. And she's acquired experience in corporate financing, debt financing, project financing, and most recently, impact investments, sustainability, corporate and commercial law. Let's just give her a round of applause. I'll move on to Andrew. So he's the Senior Account Manager at African Press Organization with over a decade of experience across diverse sectors and global brands. He's worked in banking and as well as, you know, the IFC, GIZ, the UN, etc. And he has lots of experience in public relations, branding, and corporate communications. I'm gonna introduce Lesley next, seasoned geologist, over a decade of experience, there he is, spanning mining and exploration across Africa and Europe, a graduate of First Quantum Minerals' prestigious international graduate program. I think that deserves a round of applause. I read that and I thought, okay, I didn't know, right? His expertise includes unlocking value from mineral exploration projects or characterization. You're going to break that down for us. Grade control, resource definition, etc., etc., etc. A round of applause for him. And our last panelist will be Sitwala. So he serves as geology manager at KoBold Metals. He leads the geological development of the Mingomba mine, recognized as one of the world's largest and high-grade undeveloped copper deposits. His expertise covers mine development planning, ore body delineation, near mine exploration, and advanced geological modeling, etc., etc. So we're going to have ourselves a very interesting panel discussion. I do know that, you know, from the sessions that we had earlier, we're just going to tackle one or two questions from each of the speakers, and then we can leave some time for Q&A. My name is Sibeso Mofya, and I'm a banker. So I work in treasury and financial markets with Indo-Zambia Bank, recently moving from Standard Chartered, but I'm wearing the hat of an author, an anchor, a news presenter with Financial Insight Zambia. I've been with the family from day one, and we're going on 8 years now, so a familiar face and happy to be here. Okay, so when preparing for this session, right, I was trying to understand where we're at in terms of mining as a country in Zambia, and something somewhat, you know, caught my attention that this year the government has, can I say, an aspiration of, is it mining copper to 1 million tons? Okay, so the experts are nodding. So we're in the right room, guys. And something else I caught was that China alone is now looking to import at least 95,000 tons from Zambia. And these are new statistics. I just want to start with, between Sitwala and Lesley, any of you guys can pick it up, with the first question being, do we have capacity to get to the 1 million? And if not, how can we get there?
Okay, probably I'll go first on that one before Lesley adds in. So actually, the aspiration is to move to a point where, as a country, we're able to produce 3 million tons of copper. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's quite an ambitious goal. Is it achievable? Yes. Is it easy work to get to there? Certainly not. So we can look at the numbers slightly, okay? Last year, Zambia produced a little over 800,000 tons of copper, mm-hmm. Okay? And to get to 3 million, basically we are thinking of tripling our current production. This year we are projecting from the media space and from early work that we've been seeing, and considering the targets that we have achieved mid-year, it is reported we likely in a good position to get to a million tons. So this needs, how do we ramp up? We need to get new mines online, okay? We need to have production from other mines contributing. We need to optimize the current operations that are running now. And we need, apart from increasing efficiency, we need to probably scale up on the existing operations. So it is possible. It's a bit of a lot of work to be done. And to bring mines online, Lesley already gave statistics of how difficult it is to find a deposit to bring online. You stand less than 1% of every project you embark on to bring it online. There's one area that can help us get closer to that is we have to, there's something that we term as grades of copper. Essentially, this is how much concentration. You have a lot of deposits, but you want to find the deposits that are much easier to mine and that contain a higher quality of copper, a higher concentration of copper in one deposit, okay? Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. In the GRC, the production in the GRC, I think he mentioned about it, like why is the GRC doing well? Mm-hmm. The GRC, they were able to bring one, after exploration, they were able to bring into production one mine, okay, whose entire production in a year was about 400,000 tons of copper, okay? And reference that to what we produced as a country, a little over 800 tons, okay? So that is almost half of production, half of our production came from one mine. So finding the right deposits is very, very important. This is a high-grade Kamoa deposit in the GRC that has about 4 to 5% amount of copper. Correct. And that's why I'm very excited for Zambia with the project that we are looking at as Mingomba, because it's equally a high-grade deposit. Mm-hmm. So finding such deposits easily make it, it makes the journey to the 3 million much easier, but it is a lot of work. I'll be the first one to admit to that, and a number of players are required to come online to achieve that.
Thank you. Lesley, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a very good question and something that I've been pondering on for quite some time now. 1 million tons after by the end of this year possible? Yes, it is possible. Of course, we have to look at the resources that we currently have, okay? And like he said, we upscale production in these existing mines. Then the biggest pusher which can come in is technology. You know, I've been touring quite a number of companies, and they are doing well where technology is concerned. The efficiency, if you look at Kalumbila now, it took about 40 minutes to mine copper and transport it to the plant. But now they have these electric sort of mobile, not necessarily crushers, the conveyor lines, which can run 3 times more than the normal conveyor line, therefore shortening that distance, that period. And now we are seeing electric shovels coming in, so they are much bigger shovels, they are much bigger trucks. And with with all these things coming into play, it reduces the cost of production. And because the cost of production is reduced, then you can also reduce the cut-off grade. I hope you get what I mean. Yes. Now, the cut-off grade, this is the grade at which a mine can mine to make a profit. And it's largely driven by the expenditure of the company. So once you increase on your technology and on the efficiency of your machines, you can lower that if it was 1%, you can lower it even to half. And what that does is it grows your resource. Abruptly, your resource becomes double. And then you can push in more. And with these things being in place, this is why the government we are all confident that we are going to achieve that with the coming in of West3 for Kansanshi, and Lumwana doing a super pit, upscaling production, Karumbira's upscaled production, coming in of Mopani back online, you know, and also starting to ramp up. KCM is showing some signs of recovery, and when mopped up, we should be able to be heading in the right direction.
I love this conversation because, so I'm in banking. I deal a lot with funding the mines, or rather, let me say, there's a lot of daily transactions that come in interacting with mines, especially on the foreign exchange side. So this, for me, it brings a lot into perspective. And it brings me to my next question, although I think that should be the last one. You've spoken a lot about, you know, emerging technology, right? And I think we tried to speak on what the role of AI could be in terms of mining. Here I have something noted as the potential of emerging technologies like satellite imaging, hyperspectral analysis in mineral exploration, etc. How do you think we're positioned as Zambia to accept or to integrate the use of AI and new technologies in the mining space? Can we do it? Are we ready? What do we need to do to get there?
Yeah. Okay, good question. As a country, we are ready. I spoke about in the morning, very clear example where we are applying that. Can we do more? Certainly, yes. And it's also about where we also rely on you, our partners, to disseminate this information to be understood very, 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 very clearly. We have, as a country, we have the capacity to do it, for it to happen in Zambia. At Mingomba, where we are applying this, the Zambian geologists, working with other people at the forefront of embracing this technology and working around getting real-world solutions to mineral exploration. So the terms and satellite imagery that Sibeso is referring to is AI has been used in many platforms. We're just talking about in mining. It's like in weather, we try to predict weather using satellite imagery and all these other patterns that we observe. What it really gives us is the ability to make better predictions of, is it going to rain tomorrow? Okay, or is there likely to be copper here? So once you take away that veil, you see that we are already applying AI in most of our daily lives, and we're just extending it to the mineral exploration space to create value. Yeah, so are we ready for it? I would say absolutely yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's a great question. That's a great answer that you've given. And I move on to Hope, just to touch a little bit on something, again, that's very peculiar. And it's the conversation around, you know, the tariffs. We're seeing the West imposing tariffs on a lot of different commodities, and copper is one of them. And I asked from a legal front to say Zambia is, you know, the second largest copper producer on the continent. Do we see the tariffs on copper affecting the country in production, in legal terms, in operations? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I guess they say what happens on a global scale, and really these geopolitical issues and politics will always affect players like us. Also because even if they don't impact us directly, the people who are, you know, the large purchasers like China or the other countries would still be affected by whatever it is that is going on the global scale. And we also note that in the market, sometimes what happens is it becomes uneconomical to mine a certain copper ore, for instance, or part of whatever it is that the mine has mined, because of the copper concentrate in that, because of the percentage of the copper concentrate in that concentrate. And so when the prices are adversely affected and they are lower, it then makes it uneconomical to mine that. But when the prices increase and there's an uptake, then it becomes economical to mine that. And so legally, you find a situation where sometimes the big mines will not do anything with some of the tailings or that they put in the dams or the concentrates that they have, because at that point it's not economical to mine because of maybe the tariffs or the copper prices on the global market and everything like that. And sometimes that's often taken by the public as, well, then if they're not using it, let's give it to someone else who's going to mine. But there's some underlying commercial reason for that. It's not that we are not going to mine this, it's just that we can't mine this now in a way that is going to make economical sense. So I think we need some sort of sensitization around that, so that we can also just prepare expectations, well, we can prepare the public and manage expectations around, well, with the tariffs, and I am no economist, so I'm sure the economists will do their analysis around that. But it's about sensitizing the public and also regulatory authorities around what do the tariffs mean, and if there's a drop in the copper prices and some of the mining entities make certain decisions that they make, how as the regulators, and how are we going to make sure that the regulatory environment sort of adapts to accommodate that situation and to be able to accommodate such a drop in prices or such an adverse effect. Because again, we are relying on the fact that we want the sector to be investor friendly. Otherwise, we're not going to have new players coming in online. And if we don't have new players coming online, we're not going to achieve the 3 million tons aspirations. So we need to sensitize at the grassroots and also at the regulatory level, and then also just look at our laws and see how can we make the laws more accommodative to some of these geopolitical factors that will inevitably affect mining in Zambia.
Brilliant. Andrew, just picking up on what Hope has talked about on sensitization, on transparency, on educating not only the media or the public, but educating every stakeholder involved. The West has specialized, reporters, energy reporters, people who actually study this sector and report accurately and timely, and everybody is aligned when news hits the market. What do you think, where do you think we're lacking in Zambia, and how can we do better at transparency in mining communication?
Thank you so much for that. I think the biggest issue starts with, obviously, the capacity of newsrooms in Zambia to movement. Believe you me, you realize that we have very few reporters that are currently working. Majority, maybe they'll have up to 5 or 6, obviously alternating on different desks. So that then tends to put pressure. And number 2, it's also how the media space has been obviously over time evolving in terms of how it's growing. There's a lot of pressure between obviously online and traditional media. So obviously, traditional media will have a more structured, ways of how they operate. That will also require a little bit of financing to meet their day-to-day activities, while as online could be 1 or 2 people running the show and be able to deliver. But to come back to your question, I think it's 2 main things that will have to happen. So it's number 1, the players in the mining space themselves taking a deliberate step to help media houses in one way or the other, obviously in terms of upscaling, financing community radio stations, because in most places where mines are operating from, they operate from rural communities where they actually need to, bring people close, including the medias that are operating in that space, to just obviously, give them a bit of push in terms of capacity and also the resources that will help them upscale and be able to get real topics that will touch the communities. The second aspect, I think it's also for the media houses or the owners of the businesses to also invest in this critical sector, because it's among the 4 key sectors that we have in the market that really drive our GDP. So we have to be deliberate about it in terms of investing in obviously human resource, people that will have an understanding and be able to get information that will be critical to report about this sector, which we say is driving our economic growth.
Correct.
So if I'm just to
Please, you can.
hang on to his last point, in terms of the information that we need to disseminate. Earlier this year, I had an opportunity to talk to my fellow MBA candidates at the University of Stellenbosch. And the topic that I was discussing with them is the green energy transition. And basically, as Zambians and just general people in Africa, we don't see the very good, unique opportunity that we are in. Between Zambia and the DRC, we have in the whole world the most highest grade quality sedimentary hosted copper deposit, okay, in the whole world, okay. Mineralization of this type, okay. We don't have the biggest amount of copper, but this particular type that is between the DRC and Zambia, it's that unique and it is of very high grade. Now, if we look at the green energy transition and everything that we are going to towards the battery metals and everything, we have a trajectory that the price of copper is poised to be either stable or continue increasing, driven on riding on the demand for battery metals. So once we realize that opportunity, we need a lot of people to be aware of that and position themselves strategically to contribute to attaining the 3 million tons. It's not only going to be a job for the geologists, it's not only going to be the job for the mining engineers, but it's each one of us to drive towards that. And it can only be done when the right information and right opportunities are communicated very well.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I have a comment on, the green energy, but just to touch on.
Can I just
Please.
add before I lose my thought?
No, please go ahead.
It's a very good topic. But I think in terms of the media and the mining industry itself, something has to happen, because there is always, the mining industry is always not as much open as possible about what we do. Even myself, the amount of information I can give you about our own project, it could be 90%, I'll give you 1%. Sometimes the media is not even allowed to access mining sites or exploration sites. So how can they report accurately? So maybe in terms of policy, if we are going to disseminate correct information, I think there should be issues of policies. I've been working with a lot of companies and they are approached by a lot of media. They even say, the company will even tell you to say, oh, you are going to the media, please don't talk about this. But the information I'll give will be 1%. And I'm very sure the media might agree with me. So access to the information about mining, I think could be a challenge for the media to actually disseminate the correct information.
Is there anything?
But I think there's also a bit of chicken and egg there.
Yes.
What needs to be driven is a certain level of trust needs to be developed.
Correct.
And we also understand mining is also it's more of a competitive industry in a way that you are just like every other business. There's information that you don't want to hide information, okay? Most mines, at least most that I know, are actually very open in terms of what their production numbers are, okay? What they intend to do, but it's we need to develop a trust culture that whatever is reported is not misquoted to get more attention, right? So that's people now get very skeptical of how you are reporting. Say probably if I say this, I'll be quoted this way, and then tomorrow you have a battle to kind of correct the misquotation that was done. But I think it's just an issue of developing that trust that there will be responsible reporting of anything.
Absolutely.
So that's just my take in.
I was going to ask Hope if from the legal side, in terms of implication or regulation, on media reporting or just dissemination of information, you have a comment?
Well, I think it's always a fine balance with these things, because normally, depending on the information, if it's commercially sensitive information, you might find that it's subject to a non-disclosure agreement, or at least it's subject to some other confidentiality agreement, and that if you breach that agreement, then you're in legal trouble and it has financial implications. And sometimes it's information that the public might feel entitled to, but it's also the very information that might, make a project lose its competitive advantage, or that might adversely affect the project. So from the legal side, before, you go about sharing information, because obviously if it's shared with journalists, then there's that expectation that it's going to be shared with the public, and then it becomes, information in the public domain, and therefore it will lose its confidential nature. So you always want to make sure that you do your checks. Is the information you're about to give out subject to any non-disclosure agreement? Is it subject to any confidentiality agreement? Or is it fine to put out there in the public? And to the extent that it is, then, by all means, go ahead and give the information. But to the extent that it's not, then, you'd have to hold on to it. And now we also have, regulation for, enhanced regulation for personal data and information. So cybersecurity, the Data Protection Act. Back then, we could just, give people's names and phone numbers and their NRCs without, any legal implications. But now there are strict regulatory requirements in terms of how you collect such information, you use that information, you process it, and how you even just, give it out. So definitely you'd have to make sure that you're covered on the legal part, because you do not want to fall foul of the law because you're trying to do some good.
Very. We can go on and on in this conversation, though I'm cognizant of time. Lesley, you spoke about the feasibility study and resource definition. I'm just going to sum it as something around financing, right? At the S3 launch, it housed, if not all, not all, but some of Zambia's biggest banks were present. And for me, or people in the financial industry, it meant that that's a stamp of approval in terms of funding or banks being open to support the mining sector, as it being one of the key sectors, if not the key sector in the country at the moment. Talk to us about funding. I don't want to say challenges, but talk to us about the funding space and how we can get there, or we can get better as a country.
Wow, it's a very big topic, that one also. Yeah, like I said, there are two parts in this. There is exploration, then there is mining. And you saw what happened at that launch. All the banks went there. But when they were doing exploration, I don't think there was even a bank. It goes to say mining risks all the risks. And all the time, the banks are actually looking at the risk. Like I said, the risk of exploration is that it's 1% success. And a bank is a business. So the money they have has to circulate, and they need to have a very sure way to say, if we put in this money, this will become a mine. So financing at mining stage is very easy, because everyone else wants to be part of that money spinner. The mining industry brings money very quickly, because if you look at the expenditures of some companies I've worked with, a month would spend $16 million. You supply your staff, will pay you by tomorrow or the other month. But the biggest issue we have is financing in exploration. That's why most of the small-scale exploration companies, including artisanals, struggle a lot. Because it's very difficult for you to have a project and prove that at the end of the day, this project will be a mine. Now, that's where now I said, in terms of financing, this is where the legal minds come in, where you need to have all the papers, list, maybe at the Lusaka Stock Exchange. If possible, if there can be deliberate policies where You know, companies within Zambia can be allowed to even list maybe in Australia, in Canada, in South Africa, and then people can buy shares. The way we normally do exploration is that it doesn't come from one person's pocket. Everyone contributes a small part. They get some shares, this one buys this, that. Then you make that money to foot your budgets. So for me, it's very important that companies, especially in Zambia, they need to find their way to find a space where they can list and allow other people to invest in their businesses. Not banks. Banks will not give you money for exploration. My own experience, we've never seen a bank that has. Maybe you are a banker. I can come to you for the gold in Mufumbu. Yeah, so that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to take the last round of questions and open it up for Q&A. Maybe I'll speak to you, Hope, on sustainability and climate resilience. Do we have, concrete mining laws that address, the environmental and social concerns related to exploration activities? I think in the last month we saw what happened, the pollution and, a certain country pulling out its stuff, and all of that was misquoted. I'll come to you, Andrew, in terms of, correct reporting on that. But what regulations do we have, or what should be put in place to somewhat combat that?
So the current regulatory regime does have regulations that will address environmental obligations that mining companies and entities in the mining sector should adhere to. Even before you are granted the mining right, under the Environmental Management Act, you need to conduct an environmental impact assessment. And that is an extensive study that will, take into account the environmental impact and effects of your operations on, based on the particular site where you're going to conduct your mining operations. And once you do your environmental impact assessment, ZEMA are going to review it, and then they're going to see if there are any environmental concerns and effects. They're going to place certain conditions that you'd need to adhere to as, the license holder. And it's only when that process is complete, at least, looking at it in an ideal setting, that you would then get your licensing. But then there are also other processes and procedures even as you go. So, there'll be development permits to make sure that, okay, the land where you're going to do this, do you have the correct development permit for this? Is the land use correct for this? And things like that. So that's at the point when you're getting your licensing and sort of the safeguards that are there at that point. You also need to get permits and licenses for reducing pollutants in the air, for instance, or for transporting hazardous waste and things like that. And there are also restrictions on what you can discharge and what you can't discharge into the environment, the atmosphere, and also water bodies. And then even as, because mining is an extractive industry, we can't run away from that. So even at the point of during the life of the mine, there are certain financial obligations just to make sure that the mining entities will be able to honor their environmental obligations. There are obligations to make, financial contributions or put in place financial guarantees to the Environmental Protection Fund. And after you're done with your mining operations or your exploration works, there are basically obligations to restore the environment. Now, obviously, you will not restore it to the way it was before, but you are required to put in place certain measures. So revegetate the land, and make sure that at the point you are leaving the site, there is nothing there that is going to be harmful, that is then going to escape, or that is going to cause long-term adverse effects for other people, or that's going to render that land completely unusable for any other purpose in future. And so even whether you're going to, it's because the mine has run its life course, or whether you've just decided to abandon your mining operations or your exploration works, and if you've drilled holes and everything, you are required to rehabilitate. And the idea is that the contributions that you would have made into the Environmental Protection Fund will be used as a financial resource where, you need to undertake those obligations. So in an ideal setting, that should cover it. But obviously, life is not always ideal. And so it's always up to the regulators in terms of how they are, actively enforcing these things in terms of compliance with financial obligations and how they are monitoring compliance. Otherwise, the way the regulatory regime is right now, we do have environmental regulation obligations for before you start mining, during the life cycle of the mine, and even at the point that you're closing or abandoning operations.
Okay. I think let's give them a round of applause. But let's take some questions from media. Let's take 2, and then we ask the panel to give their closing remarks.
My name is Faith, and I'm coming from Indigenous Brands. I think I want to thank the organizers for this opportunity, because they say knowledge is power. And I think where I am today, these 4 hours have been very enlightening, and I'm ready to take over Mr. Mulwanda's job, because but I think after this discourse, it gives me a lot of thoughts around mining. I think before this, mining for me is, okay, there's a big company here coming to invest, and there's a place that is being exploited, and there's people involved. There's so much miscommunication, misinformation. And I think for me, this is not really a question or an advice, but I think it's a charge to both the journalists and the experts. There's so much that you can give out. There's so much where we can meet and, enlighten. Otherwise, from everything that I'm hearing here, I tell you, posterity will judge us. From 1982, okay, now I'm revealing my age, but anyway, what I've gotten here is something that I've not known from the past. There's, I think he's saying people are only given 1% of information that they might need to know. But being in spaces like this, having experts like you who know about these things that are happening, I think the charge is that you need to come forward and give us the right information. For example, the Mufumbwe saga. We just heard it on social media and everything. Then there's people who have died, and then there's people who are traveling, and then there's TikTok blowing up. I'm going to Mufumbwe, there's gold and all that. With the right information, if Mr. Mulwanda came up and said, look, yes, Zambia has got minerals, but this is it. This is what it is. There's a space and there's this. So it doesn't mean when you find a small deposit, it doesn't mean that there's gold in the whole area. If people can have that information, there'll be a lot of saving of lives. In this case, I should say, there will be a lot of misconception, because every time information is not disseminated correctly, there's a lot of speculation, and everybody can say anything. But you have the expertise, you have the information, so you need to help us, even us as journalists, as communications experts. You need to give us the right information. And where we are here, we're all Zambians. We need to get the right information. We need to disseminate the right information so that we have, correct information about what's where. And, right now, I'm not even sure if there's actually gold in Mufumbwe, but there've been all these stories. I think 3 weeks ago, my husband got a call saying, Ndala, kuno kuligodi, kangono cheni, tupini, and he was mentioning these figures, gatmulina machine and all that, you know what I mean. But here I am, if I'm desperate and I'm like, oh, there's gold and what, I don't even know the concentration and everything like that. But the charge now is to you, the experts, you, the Zambians. We need to take up this responsibility seriously, to disseminate information in a way that even our people will understand that there should not be speculation anyhow. So thieves have come and they're taking over our minerals, and then there's all these things that are coming. Meanwhile, you, our friends, have the correct information. So this is my charge to you. Get in the spaces that you can be, and give us the correct information about how these deposits and how these mineral landscapes are, and what is where, and if we have the information, we don't need to get into the deep end of it. Right now, all I've known growing up, I've grown up knowing that there's gold in Mumbwa, where there's a Nangoma hospital there because some white guy came years ago and they discovered that there's gold, and so they've built a hospital on top of it, but down there there's gold. Eventually his ancestors will start coming and they'll start, doing this mining. All that is misinformation. Maybe Mr. Mulwanda and Mr. Sitwala have the information, I don't know, but this is what's, in the community. So this is a charge that let's work together to better our nation, to have correct information, so that even as people, as investors, are coming in, they know that these guys, where we're going, they know what is theirs, they know what's where, and there's very little misinformation. And it's also a charge to my fellow communications experts. We need to get into the habit of wanting to be interested in the things that are happening around. We shouldn't just rely on Facebook, social media lawyers and whatnot. Right now, I think we've gotten a lot from Hope. Thank you very much, Hope, for giving us that elaborate presentation, by the way. So I think for me, the charge is to both, and we need to come together. Thank you.
We'll take one more.
Good evening, everyone. If I could introduce myself, I'm Siachawa Michael Michelo. I serve as Publicity Secretary under Uzabeka, the Business and Economics Association. And my question is directed to Mr. Sitwala, and it reads, do you see AI replacing human geologists in exploration, or it always be a supportive tool? Looking at on your explanation on how AI is making work easier for humans, do you see by any chance in the upcoming years on how it might take over the other positions that the other Zambians can also partake in? Because to think about it, a long time before we had all these equipments, like drilling and all those things were really hard to obtain and extract. But now, when you compare it from the way it was back then to the way it is right now, there's a bit of an advancement, and for surely we can tell that in the upcoming future there'll be more advancement. But I just want to ask if you can give any assurance to myself and maybe my fellow students that the jobs should be available.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Please.
Sure. That's a very good question. Thank you very much for that question. And really, it's been a similar question asked in various platforms, and not only AI itself, basically just technology as a whole, taking over humans' jobs. So to answer your question, I strongly believe no. Okay. A geologist, like for example, from this interaction that I've had from the time I started using AI, even at the company that I'm working on, we've been on the hunt for geologists, for more geologists to work on that, because what a geologist is trained for is not really to differentiate what the color of that chair is. Everybody else can do. We don't need a geologist to do that. Okay. But the geologist is trained, do 5 years of undergraduate training and even more post that, to make interpretations of what that data is. Okay, what is it that we could? So for me, I see it's allowing geologists to look at the things that they have really been trained their mind to do, instead of differentiating what color this is from the other one. So I still continuously view it as an enabler. Okay. And when that way you can look at it is like, if the geologist, okay, if the geologist is able to use AI to find the deposit faster, what does that mean? A deposit now is going to create more jobs now for people who are going to mine that thing now. And then think about the trickle-down effect from there. So if you look at it holistically, it's actually contributing to job creation, because we want to deliver the next mine soon so that people get jobs and start working on that mine, okay? Mm-hmm. So anything that helps us reach to that point, we should basically embrace it and run towards it. So it's an enabler. So the end goal is how can we do this faster and more efficiently for the benefit of our country, and people get jobs. the government gets its revenue through taxes, and people get employed.
I'm cognizant of time, so I think people can mingle afterwards. But I will ask for closing remarks. Maybe I'll start with Andrew all the way to Sitwala.
Thank you so much, colleagues in the media, for obviously being here and having this meaningful conversation. For me, my closing remarks will basically be, let's take time and interest to understand what's happening in this space. I think it's a sector that we don't have to overemphasize. It's very critical to this economy and country. So let's invest time, understand what goes on, and let's report the right narrative. Because believe you me, the stories that you write could also attract an investor to come into this market and look for opportunities. So let's hold journalism with the kind of, upright DI it deserves, so that we put a good picture about Zambia so that we can attract investments and also be able to tell the Zambian mining story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope.
Hi, it's been a very insightful day, and I think that regardless of the profession you're in, we always owe it to ourselves and also just to be functional members of society to learn more. And the more we get knowledge about these things, it helps us. So the more I, as a lawyer, get more knowledgeable about, the operations and these other seemingly unrelated legal portions of mining, the more it helps me as I am drafting that agreement, as I am litigating that case, because I'll be able to understand the nuances. And I think it would be the same thing for the journalist. The more you understand the regulatory environment within which, the people and the stories you're reporting on, if you understand the wider context, it will help in basically reporting factual information, and also just help in guiding the public around what, someone can do something that's received badly but is legal, and someone can do something that is received well but is illegal. And when it comes to the legal ramifications of that, it's something that I think people need to understand. And also because it's from your reporting that, the citizens and even the locals are going to be able to understand things like what are their legal rights in specific contexts, what is it that they might do that they might think is defending their rights, but that could land them in serious legal trouble. And it's things like that you need to report on. I think, like she said, there's a lot of information circulating about gold here and there, but people need to be able to understand, okay, fine, if there's gold here, what legal steps do you need to take to be able to find yourself in a legal position to mine that gold, or to be able to participate in the value chain of that gold, as opposed to just acting based on misinformation. And I think that in as much as people don't like to read legal obligations, that could be something that you could include in your reporting in terms of the legal implications or the requirements or the obligations around a specific issue, just to shed clarity on it.
Thank you very much. I think a lot has been said, and yeah, I'll just make a comment. I think that will be my closing remark. We've talked about this gold a lot, but in terms of legal, the way she said, many times when people say there is gold somewhere or whatever, lithium, whatever it is, they also forget that most of these areas have licenses which are active, either exploration or mining. And every time you go to a place that belongs to somebody, you could be a local person or whatever it is, you don't have a legal right. I think that's what is. And these are the things that we need the media to disseminate. Just because you feel there is gold there doesn't mean you have a right to go there. That's why people, sometimes the police, they go and chase people and they will feel like, the government is not being fair to the people. But when I get a mining license, I have the obligation to protect my what? My mining license itself from intruders. If someone dies in that license, the liability is on me. And then the government's responsibility is that we will help you protect this what. So when I report that there are intruders in my place, people will come, the police will come and do these things. So we need to find you know, a balance, especially for you, you know, journalists. You need to send that message that people begin to understand. Also, all these things of mineral currencies versus whatever it is. Sometimes people come to me and say there is gold in Kasempa, and I tell them, buy water and go and sell. So don't go and involve yourself in the mining. You actually make more money when you take water there than mining itself. And one lady that I advised, I think she made a lot of money. She even wanted to give me 1,000. I said, please, I don't need it. Everywhere. Yeah. So many times, the other journalist has just left. She told me there's a place they visited. There was so much people talking about gold or whatever it is. Then I asked her to say, how much gold did you see? She didn't say anything. But there were over thousands of people there. And this is something that the media doesn't tell the people. I was in Mufumbe myself. I went with money, cash. And I tell the guys, bring your gold here. Gold at the market now, an ounce is selling for $2,300. I was with my friend and we said, we'll pay you $4,000. Just give us 1 ounce, which is about 27 grams. None of them was. And there are thousands of people there. Then what are you doing here? So these are some of the things, even you journalists, when you hear things of that nature, you run there, you ask the right questions. You can save that person who wants to waste their money, but also you can also protect the chaos that we try to see where police officers are being brutalized and the other people the other way around. It's all about information. And you have people like us, feel free, my office is here, Mr. Chiwesakunda, we are always talking. We get, reach out to us, learn more, so that when you are actually addressing mining issues, you're asking the right questions. I think that's my closing remarks.
Yeah. I just want to start by thanking the organizers for this opportunity accorded. I think it's very, very important that we continue having these engagements. I, for one, have also learned a lot from my fellow panelists like this, and also engaging with you, knowing what are the pertinent questions people need to understand is very eye-opening on our end as well. As a way of encouragement, I just want to, I think somebody has already mentioned it as well. If we have equipped journalists with the right information, then we are standing in a very good place. So if that involves self-training or the media houses get a geologist, I would love to see one geologist employed by the media houses to help disseminate this information, or a journalist, or the journalist who is going to do a short program if it's 6 months or anything like that. Do a reverse, because it's important that we continue having these conversations. And so mine is just to say thank you for the opportunity accorded, and look forward to more of such engagements again.
Okay, so thank you very much, everybody.
We support you, Mr. Chiwesakunda, with this initiative. Please call on us again.
Absolutely. Yes. So it's just to say a huge thank you to everybody. Thank you to our panelists and our speakers. It's been a brilliant afternoon, and their doors are open, so please do reach out to them. But also just thank you to Financial Insight Zambia for this, and it's many more coming ahead. So we're looking forward. And thank you, everybody.